Well, Dr. Hahn, thank you so much for being here today. For those of you who don't know, Dr. Hahn is a board-certified cardiologist. He does teaching with our fellows and residents. He oversees a lot of our echo labs, does quality for KPN, works in our executive physical program. Like, when do you have time to do anything with all of that on your plate?
You have to find time, make time, just like you did. So it's totally doable.
Well, Dr. Hahn, you know this, but for those of you, I actually met Dr. Hahn via the executive physical program. And before that, about 5 years ago, I read an article that came out about you in the Physician Quarterly. And it outlined the physical transformation that you had in your personal life. And I found that really inspiring. And as such, that was one of the reasons I actually chose you to be part of the executive physical program, because I wanted to see what tips, tricks, and hacks that you could impart, because I was trying to desire that change. And so just thank you so much. And one of the things that I wanted to start out with was at the end of our first visit, you had a word of prayer with me. And I remember that specifically because it felt so liberating. I don't remember the exact words, but I just remember it was like you inviting the creator of the universe into my life and to be part of my health and my health journey. Is prayer something that you have done and incorporated into your practice?
Yeah, I think prayer is really, really important. One thing is that Christ is the great healer, the great physician. Anything that I can do is really through him. And if you want to have comprehensive, total health, a big part of that is spirituality. I think a lot of people in the world are looking for something to fill them up. And I think there really is a hole in people that can't be filled unless God's in that hole. And I think the hole is a perfect shape that only Christ fits into. So it's made a huge difference in my life. And it's made a lot of difference in my patient's life. And I think prayer is a great way to bind with my patients. Even the ones that have turned me down, I think it's actually helped our relationship.
Well, terrific. Well, I know it played a big part in my life. I just want to thank you for that. So for those of you who don't know your story, can you tell me a little bit about it and what happened? What transpired?
Yeah, basically what happened is you go through life and you get married, have kids, get busy. So I slowly picked up about 45 pounds. And then, this sounds crazy, but I was actually self-treating myself for high blood pressure and high cholesterol by going to the sample closet in my office and just taking medications. So I wasn't even being monitored by my own doctor. And then what happened one time is I actually hurt my knee, tore my medial collateral ligament. And then I kind of realized the reason I did that was I was carrying around 45 pounds of fat with every single step, every single day. And I just had my second son, Noah, and I kind of realized, I looked at him and I thought, if I don't get my act together, I'm not going to see him graduate, get married, see my grandkids. So I got to start taking care of myself. I got to do what I was actually telling my patients to do. So I became vegan, started exercising. I hadn't done anything, probably, except playing basketball one time per year with my friends. I was doing no exercise. So I started walking, running. And basically, I lost 45 pounds. My blood pressure normalized, got off my medication. My cholesterol is fantastic, got off Lipitor. And then after I discovered that, I kind of realized, this lifestyle thing really works. And so I need to share that with my family, my friends, and also my patients, because it really makes a big difference.
Wow. Now, you say all that, and it seems like it just kind of magically took place, and I know that's not the case. Like, how long was your kind of journey and transformation?
Yeah, my peak weight was 205, and it took me about 3 years to drop the first 35, 40. When I started running really long, then I dropped the last 5 or 10 pounds.
Okay.
But it was about a 3 to 4 year process. But having said that, it was probably a 25-year process of slowly getting fatter and in worse shape. So not a bad trade-off.
That's excellent. Now, I'm curious, as you were going through those 3 years, what was most helpful in your transformation process? Was there any one thing that you can point to, or several things that kind of came together in a way that helped to catalyze or to continue you in your journey?
Yeah, the biggest thing is my wife.
Okay.
And some of my great friends. So one of our friends recommended a book called The China Study to Joyce. Joyce read it, and then she told us you need to cut back, eliminate animal products. And I was like, no, we're not. You don't need to do that. But my wife does 99% of the shopping for food and 99% of the cooking. So eventually we became vegan. And then through that process, I started going, man, it wasn't just the weight loss, but I feel so much better, so much more mentally sharp. I want to continue this. And so we just kept doing it. And then it's amazing seeing my oldest son, Josh. He was a little bit chunky, like the baby fat never really left. That guy got really skinny. He lost all his excess weight. And then my second kid is really healthy. My wife's mother came to live with us because she tore her rotor cuff during a fall. And so she was with us for 4 months. She forgot to bring her Lipitor. When she went back home 4 months later to Chicago to a doctor's appointment, she had lost like 30 pounds. Her cholesterol was normal, off medications. I mean, she had done awesome just hanging out with us. And that's all a reflection of my wife, Joyce.
Well, that's terrific. Was there like I'm just curious, with you talked about Joyce doing all the cooking, was there like one recipe that you just were blown away by, that you were surprised with yourself? Because you were a big meat eater before, right?
Oh, I used to, any kind of dead animal that I could find, I'd go for. I mean, I don't care where it came from.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of really big things. One is rice and beans. We probably have that once a week. And it's like a lot of protein, really fills you up, spicy, tastes great. The other thing that's really crazy is cauliflower. When I was a kid, broccoli, cauliflower, and Brussels sprouts are things I would never eat.
Okay.
But we roast cauliflower, eat cauliflower raw. She actually, I mean, and now cauliflower is so popular, you can put like pizza crust made out of cauliflower, all sorts of stuff. But that was a side vegetable that actually the kids and I mean, we'd actually fight to finish that stuff off. It tasted so good, and it's healthy it's healthy, and you can eat basically as much as you want.
So it's actually funny you say that. So Joyce, who's also a physician, came to my daughter's school and did a health talk on health foods, and my daughter came home, my middle daughter, who likes nothing. She pretty much likes things that are white or yellow or brown. So I'm sure you all know the type of kid that I'm talking about. And she goes, Daddy, I love cauliflower. And so cauliflower, over the course of Joyce, has made it over to our household, unbeknownst to this whole journey taking place. So you can let Joyce know that she is continuing to have a positive impact.
No, she'll love that.
So as you were going through your health transformation, what way did that impact, or has that impacted the way you practice medicine?
It's had a huge impact. I'm kind of conservative medically anyway, so I don't like to refer patients for a lot of procedures unless they really need it. And then if you don't do that, then you use a lot of medications. Medications cost money, have a lot of side effects, interactions. What's just as effective as medicine is lifestyle changes. We always talk about stopping smoking and vaping. That's a huge thing to work on, probably the biggest thing you can do. But if you look at the American diet, and SAD stands for Standard American Diet, which is sad, but about half of that is hyper-processed foods. If you just eat healthier, you're going to lose a ton of weight, and that impacts the diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and obesity epidemics. And then exercise. If you just get more active, the data now is 50% of people in the US don't do any exercise. So if we can just move that up a little bit, we're talking about an incredible improvement in everyone's health, longevity, and more importantly, how they feel, how they think. So I think that's really important. So I try to deploy lifestyle to everyone. Not everyone's receptive, but I have lots of patients that had a huge impact by using lifestyle changes.
Well, that's really terrific, and I know that plays a huge role in your practice, and I've had a number of folks who have seen you as a patient speak to that and the positive impact that you've had in their lives. So as you were embarking upon your health transformation, I'm kind of curious, what did not go the way that you expected? So so we always talk about what works, and I know that I have, and I'm no different, but what didn't go the way that you had anticipated?
Yeah, probably the biggest thing is it took me almost 7 or 9 months after I lost 30 pounds to get off my blood pressure med. Getting off the cholesterol medication is easy. Changed my diet, checked the labs, and the numbers were dropping almost immediately. So I was off of Lipitor within half a year.
Oh, wow.
But the blood pressure meds, I lost weight, I was exercising, and every time I'd come off the medication and check my pressure, it'd just go back up in a couple of days or a week, and I had to get back on the medication. But it took about 7 to 9 months where I got off, blood pressure stayed down, stayed good, and I haven't been back up since. That was probably the most frustrating thing about getting off meds. Because one of the big things people want to do with getting healthier is they want to drop some medications. So that didn't go as well. That was probably the biggest roadblock or hurdle that I came across.
Wow. So as you have patients who are meeting with you, I'm curious, what advice do you typically give them? So if somebody's sitting with you for the first time, or you've seen them for a number of years, but they're saying, Dr. Hahn, I'm ready to make a change. What advice do you give them? Where do they start?
I think that's the most important thing. A lot of times I'll meet people and they're obviously overweight on like 20 medications, but I usually don't bring about weight loss or health the first time I meet them, because you want to have some kind of rapport. You can't just say, hey, you got to lose some weight. And that's, I want them to like me, trust me, and then when I give them some kind of more personal advice, they're more willing to accept it or take it. The big thing, though, is there's like a technique called motivational interviewing, and what I typically try to do is have them say it themselves. And the bottom line is most people know what they need to do. They don't eat well, they don't sleep well, and they don't exercise. So we could find a way for them to just kind of say, I really should exercise more. I go, that's great. And then you kind of try to help them say, like, what do you like to do? What would you want to do? What did you used to do that you liked? And then encourage them to try that again. I'm not very prescriptive, like you must walk 15 minutes per day, every day at 8 a.m. before you go to work. Things like that are too rigid, take too much willpower, and that's probably going to fail.
So I've heard you say, and you just alluded to that, diet, exercise, and sleep. So let's unpack those a little bit more. And so we hear a lot about diets, and it seems like every time I pull up a news article or Facebook or anything else, there's some sort of new diet. So, all right, so what's the best diet? I hear a lot about South Beach, paleo, low carb, Weight Watchers, vegetarian, Mediterranean, vegan. I mean, with so many, it's it's overwhelming for me, and I imagine for most of society. So what advice do you have on that?
Yeah, now the good thing is this has been studied a lot. Now we have a lot of data. If you look at things like Zone, South Beach, keto, whatever, if you study it, not just the one uncle or girlfriend that had a great success, on average, every diet plan makes you lose around 8 to 10 pounds in 1 year, which is completely below everyone's goal. No one wants to go through a big change to only have that much of weight loss. And that's why people get off the wagon. It's totally unsustainable. You drop 20, you gain back 10, it's gone 6 months, you're miserable, so you just blow up the whole program. Now, if you look at all the evidence put together, probably the best thing, and we don't like to use the word vegan. I use it a lot, unfortunately, but it's been there's so many bad connotations with that word, because then you have like the militant vegans, and then you have the people that are worried about, totally about the environment. It gets political. But the phrase used now is whole foods, plant-based. The more unprocessed, more natural fruits and veggies that you eat, the better off you're going to be. And even the data from the Harvard School of Public Health, half your plate should be fruits and veggies at every meal, even breakfast. So if you focus on getting more of that instead of I need to eliminate all these things, which is really, really, really restrictive, it's easier on the willpower, easier to sustain, and it's more successful.
I know that I found that in my own personal journey. I didn't worry about taking specific things out of my diet. I just started to put more things in, and I found that less and less I wanted to eat those things. Because let's face it, Cool Ranch Doritos are vegan. They're plant-based. I'm pretty sure they don't. They aren't on the list of things that are going to help me move towards my goal.
Yeah, pretty unhealthy stuff.
Yeah, but they do taste good for a snack every once in a while.
That's debatable. Doritos are so artificial, I can't understand how people like them. And then you look at the coating on your fingers, and that's a different issue.
All right. So we've unpacked diet a little bit, and that's very helpful. So talk to me about exercise. Is there like one sort of specific exercise that is better or worse, or kind of, where do folks start with that?
This is really interesting because if you look at the United States, we are obsessed with sports. I mean, even college sports, high school sports, it's actually big money, big investment. I mean, parents will pay thousands of dollars to send their young kids to a sport camp so they can play in high school sports. Now, the funny thing is, all those parents, the vast majority, don't do any exercise. So even if you're a football star in high school, are you playing football now? Probably not. So we have this weird kind of disconnect. But what I try to talk to my patients and me is you need to find something that you like to do. Doesn't mean what you had to do in the past, but something that you can sustain and do over again. And one of the kind of mantras I use is don't exercise, train, or better yet, play. If you could play a game with your friends, like even running around, tennis, whatever, you're much more likely to do it, and then you get the benefit. If you can't do that, then it's really helpful for a lot of people, including me, and I think this is for you too, is to train for something. I have a 5K coming up, or I got like a marathon, or there's some kind of bike ride. And that kind of keeps you motivated to do it because there's some extra motivation to actually put in that work. The last thing, probably the least successful, is I got to exercise. And linking back with the diet, so often I hear people say, oh man, I had Doritos yesterday.
Yep.
I'm going to have to put an extra 30 minutes on the treadmill today. And that's why people hate exercise, because they treat it like a punishment. They treat it like torture. And that's why you don't want to do it. So if you can find something that's fun, that you're actually playing, that's the best. If not, train for something, even weightlifting, bodybuilding competition, whatever. And at the worst, exercise.
So you talked about you weren't exercising before, but how did that take place? What does that look like with your family? What does exercise look like for you and for your family?
So it's actually really fun because on Sundays are a long run. So, and I'm trying not to make running so horrible for the kids that they don't want to do it. So my youngest son, Noah, if he wants to ride his bike, we let him ride the bike, which is a lot easier, but he's outside, fresh air, hanging out with us, and he's exercising. I was running with Josh, who's actually a pretty good runner, and I was like looking at my watch, and I was like, come on, Josh, let's pick up the pace, man. And he actually told me, Dad, don't ruin my run. And then I realized I'm making it miserable for him. So I go, do your own pace. I'm glad you're out here with me. And I just slowed down and ran with him. So on Sunday, what I typically do is I'll go out with the family for a 5 or 6 mile run at their pace. That's my warm up. I run back home with them, drop them off, and I'll go out and finish my long run myself. So my family's healthy, and then I still get what I want to do and as far as my training goes.
No, that's terrific. So diet, exercise, and then sleep. And sleep's the one that I have personally found to be really fascinating as I continue to learn more about it. Talk about sleep and what role that plays in any tips, tricks, or hacks that you have found.
Yeah, so sleeping is really important. And one funny thing is exercise is the most efficient thing we do. Because if you put in 20 minutes of HIIT training, you have a benefit for 2 or 3 days. Sleep, you probably need at least 6 to 8 hours every day or you're messed up. So sleep is very inefficient. But almost everything we do needs to be stress, recovery, stress, recovery. So that means waking and sleep. And that's why sleep is so important. And that's why you exercise hard and you take a day off. And like weightlifters will have like a chest day or leg day or arm day. They're not hitting that thing 2 times in a week. They're letting that part of their body totally recover, and those guys are totally built. So the same reason we need to totally recover, and sleep is the best way to recover. If you look at the really peak athletes, these guys are sleeping 40 to 50% of their life. They usually sleep 8 to 10 hours, and they're taking an hour, 2-hour nap every day during hard training. So that tells you if you want to be really physically fit, high performance, you have to sleep. And sleep actually goes back and impacts how you eat and how you exercise as well. It's totally critical.
So how do folks go about getting sleep? So I've heard some folks say, well, I can only sleep 6 hours, anything more than that. I mean, so talk to me about the interplay between the activity during the day or the things that we're eating and how that impacts sleep.
Yeah, one of the great things about sleep, you shouldn't probably exercise right before you want to go to sleep, and you shouldn't eat probably at least 2 hours before you go to sleep, because that's going to have you have the most restful sleep. The other thing that we do is when you go to bed, you need to try to clear your mind. So the worst thing to do is check your emails, look at the news, and then try to go to sleep, because your mind's going to be racing. One of the great things I learned from a book called Getting Things Done by David Allen is he talks about offloading your brain onto a notepad or whatever your information organizational system is. And that way you're not in bed going, tomorrow I have to remember to do this, I can't forget this, which makes you not able to sleep. So you need to get all the stressors and go back to your system, which you know is not going to fail. So you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff.
So Dr. Hahn, I recently, about a month ago, came across a study that really gave me pause, and I'm actually going to read this here. In a meta-analysis of 29 long-term weight loss studies, more than half of the lost weight was regained within 2 years, and by 5 years, more than 80% of that weight was regained. Now, I got to tell you, so somebody who has just lost almost 90 pounds, that's really depressing. And so what should people be aware of in the health transformation? So what do I do, or what do others do who have achieved a level of transformation after the 3 years or after their journey? What do they do?
Yeah, so there's 2 really interesting studies that actually kind of can help you avoid that problem. One is the weight loss registry. I'm actually a part of that. And the people in this registry have lost an average of 60 pounds and kept it off for 5 years. And they ask them what all your habits are. One of the big habits is people in that study, the only exercise they did was walking. And they walked about an hour.
Wow.
So there's a decent amount of activity. And this is crazy, but only like 98% changed their diet. So 2% of people lost weight without any dietary changes. But you definitely have to make a change. One of the big things that happens to your body, and what's different than what you're talking about, is what we call plateauing, where you lost some weight and you just can't lose anymore. What you talked about is where you just gain it all back, which is even worse. But the reason you plateau is your body is incredibly made and it will adapt. So the more you exercise, your body will start getting more efficient and will burn less calories to save calories. As you lose weight, your body gets more aggressive in saving calories in case it needs those calories for another time. So you're fighting against these two mechanisms. There was a really, really cool study where they followed the contestants from Biggest Loser, I think season 8. And so on that show, all the people had lost on average of 80 to 90 pounds. Then they went home. Everyone in that group gained it all back except for 2. And one of those guys had gastric bypass surgery. Otherwise, he probably would have gained it all back. The problem with Biggest Loser is you quit your job, you go to the ranch. There's a chef there that'll cook you an organic, healthy, 1,800 calorie diet, and you have a trainer that works out for you twice a day. Once you leave the ranch, you come back home, you have to work, you have your kids, you have your job, you're making your own food, and the level of exercise you're going to get is nothing like what you had before. So what you're going to have to do is, constantly monitor yourself, modify what you do. And the great thing about something like running is you don't have to spend more time. As you get faster, you can do the same mileage in less time. So it's not like I have to run more to burn more calories, to lose more weight, to lose more fat. That's not what you have to do. You actually can exercise less and still maintain it. So it works out pretty well. Exercise, I think, is probably the big key in those diets, because their diet hasn't changed much and they regained the weight, but they haven't increased their exercise.
Wow, that's really good to know. So we've been really heavy here, and I want to have fun for a few seconds. So, okay, rapid fire session here, all right?
Okay.
And I didn't prompt you on this.
Okay.
All right, you ready?
Ready as I'm going to be. Sure.
Okay, favorite movie?
Favorite movie? I don't want to say in public. I'm going to get kicked out of the church. Has zombies in it and stuff like that. It's probably not appropriate.
Okay, well, afterwards, we'll have a behind-the-scenes one on that. Okay, favorite food?
Favorite food? Cauliflower is way up there, but I'll be honest, Grater's ice cream.
Grater's ice cream.
Yeah.
All right. So if you had a choice, salty or sweet?
Oh, sweet.
Okay, good call. If there was a movie in which someone was going to play you about your life, who would you want to play you?
What'd be really cool is have my son play me.
Okay.
He looks like 99% like me anyway,
All
so
right.
he could do it.
Good call. Favorite quote?
There's so many. Keeping this not biblical, but in kind of popular culture, there's one that says, I don't know if you know Jocko Willink, the ex-Navy SEAL.
Mm-mm.
So he has a bunch of really quotes, but really cool quotes. But my favorite one is, you must own everything in your world. And what that means is there are no excuses. When something bad happens, you need to take that and say, what could I have done to mitigate that circumstance? What can I do now to change that? Otherwise, you're just making excuses and just being status quo. Since we're adults, we can control a lot of our lives. We need to take control of our lives.
Wow. That's really powerful, and it speaks a lot. So you talked about you were self-treating yourself, and we're going to get serious here as we kind of wrap up here. So if you were to have walked in the room and pre-transformed Dr. Hahn was sitting there, what advice would you give him?
I would say, you're telling a lot of people to do stuff and you're not doing it. You're a hypocrite. And you're a really terrible example, not only to your patients, but you have 2 boys at home. What kind of example are you setting for these guys? And the third thing is not knowing. Ignorance is not safety. Ignorance is not bliss. I'm glad I looked at my numbers and I can make a change in them. But a lot of people think, I don't know, I don't care, it can't hurt me. Almost everything I deal with is what we call silent killers. High blood pressure, high cholesterol, undiagnosed diabetes. You can look normal and have all 3 of these, and your first event could be stroke, heart attack, or sudden death. So these are all silent killers. Getting to know your numbers is really important.
Well, that's really good to know. So, presuming there are some physicians out there who have watched this and they want to incorporate this, what advice would you give them? Because I can imagine it would be rather intimidating to, we all have this inner monologue to say, you're fat, or you need to lose weight, or you've got to exercise, come on, just get control. What advice, where do you give physicians? How can physicians go about being this source of encouragement to their patients and helping them achieve their transformation?
So when I first started, I graduated from Loma Linda University Medical School, which is an Adventist faith-based institution. But I'll be honest, the first 10 years of my career, I can count on my hand how many times I prayed for a patient. So I started working with Brian Schwartz, who's also a doctor up here at Kettering. And he was always kind of goading me on my case to pray for my patients, give it a shot, because we're both Adventists. And then finally, what really got me to change was he told me, Harvey, just give it a try. See what happens. What do you have to lose? And I would tell my physician friends, and a lot of them in my office have started using my health handouts, giving it to their patients, trying to advocate more healthy lives to their patients, is I would just say, give it a try. And by give it a try, first I mean give it a try personally. And there's a couple of docs who've lost weight, feel way better, and they're motivated now to be better examples and share this knowledge with other people. But give it a shot. It's not about weight loss. The biggest thing people feel at the beginning is, I feel better, I'm more mentally clear, and that drives the next process, and then eventually the weight comes off. And then the patients see that, hey doctor, you're happier, you're skinnier, what'd you do? And that gives a wedge where the doctor can say, hey, yeah, this worked for me, why don't you try it? And then that kind of helps spread the ripple effect of people getting healthier and healthier.
Well, that's terrific. So as physicians, you have a tremendous amount of impact on people, but thinking about healthcare leaders, what role do they have in helping to either bring about or model? What advice would you give to folks like me who are leaders in healthcare and wanting to help bring about this sort of change in their teams, with physicians, and in their communities?
I think it's the same as what I just said about physicians. If everyone is kind of role modeling, making an impact on their little sphere of influence, then you have multiple little ripple effects, and you just encounter more and more people. The people I'm going to interact with is going to be different than the people you interact with. And let's be honest, if you can interact and influence other executives to be healthier, happier, that's going to have a downstream effect on the rest of the organization, institution. Yeah. And it's only going to be a good thing. And let's be honest, I do cardiology. Cardiology or cardiac diseases is the #1 killer in the United States. So I deal with a lot of death and disability. It's terrible when people you really care about, invest time in, die. The loss to me, their family, the community, you really can't measure that. If we can have our workforce be healthy, happier, including the administrators, the leaders, then we're talking about really just being much more effective, much more successful. And that's what we all kind of want to be. So it's totally win-win if you do this.
Well, Dr. Hahn, I want to thank you for taking time to meet with us today. If you or others want to learn more about Dr. Hahn, I'll put a link to his practice down below. I know as physicians you've spoken many times and would be happy to reach out and help them in their own practice. And I hope that you are blessed by this interview as much as I have been personally.
Yeah, thank you.